Are the woke Greta Thunberg brigade all talk and no action when it comes to their green credentials? A damning new YouGov poll certainly suggests so, with 90%, that's right, 90% almost of all OAPs saying they recycle as much as possible, compared to a measly 52% of 18 to 24-year-olds. Despite the survey showing they profess to be the most worried about climate change, pensioners were also more likely to save water, turn off the lights, buy energy-efficient appliances and turn down the heating compared to their young whippersnappers. Youngsters, meanwhile, were more likely to have given up meat. So, Gen Z have been banging on about the climate for yonks now and blaming older generations for a lack of action on saving the planet. But their boomer counterparts are now demanding apologies after the stark survey laid bare their apparent hypocrisy when it comes to green matters. How dare you? Going loggerheads on this, I'm delighted to welcome the brilliant TV personality, a very good friend of mine, Kim Woodburn, and also a fascinating young man, a Gen Z challenger, Just Stop Oil protester, Eddie Whittingham. Great to have both of you with me. Eddie, first of all, can I ask how old you are? Do you mind if I ask you your age?
I'm 26, and thank you for having me.
There you go. Well, look, that's a lovely young age. You've got the rest of your life ahead of you. What is your reaction to these damning statistics that suggest that young people don't care about the environment as much as they say they do?
Well, just before I'd say that, I do just want to say hello to Kim. I used to watch How Clean Is Your House when I was 7 or 8 years old with my mum, so it's wonderful to meet you, albeit digitally. As to the report, look, this isn't about what individuals do, right? OK, yes, we should all play our part, but unless the government does the right thing, unless fossil fuel companies stop digging fossil fuels out of the ground, unless the banks stop financing them, unless the media does its job and hold the government to account, nothing that we do as individuals is going to create the change that we need to see.
Kim Woodburn, do you think young people are eco-hypocrites?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, my love. They don't live how they speak, my darling, at all, do they? I've got a corner house here, and I'm sick to death of these young people walking past my house throwing their cans and Kit Kat wrappers in my garden. I'm sorry, you're undisciplined. I wish you were born when I was born. You'd be far more disciplined. You're not. You're spoilt, gas-guzzling youngsters, and you need to stop all the nonsense talk that you do. We cannot do without oil. It is impossible to run this country without oil. It was once said, oil is the lifeblood of the modern world. The combustion engine is the heart, and that is exactly what it is. Do you realise if we banned oil, you couldn't have electric cars? They use oil for their emissions. So you couldn't have electric cars, my lovely. You also couldn't have our cars. You couldn't have trains, my lovely.
You wouldn't have plastic. You wouldn't have plastic. The generators that charge up electric cars come from fossil fuels. The list is endless, Kim Woodburn. And that's the problem, Eddie. Young people, they don't do the math when it comes to climate change. If we were to get rid of oil, the economy would shut down within minutes.
We couldn't cope without oil. I'd like to ask this young man, when you go on the rampage about the oil, and I know you flattered me, I said you're glad to meet me. It's not going to get you anywhere, but thank you. But now, don't crawl. Now, what do you drive around in? Did you have a car? Do you drive a car? I see. Do you have a motorbike?
No.
Do you have a motorbike? Are you answering?
No,
so how do you
Can
get
you hear me
around?
right?
How do you get around, Eddie?
I walk mostly. There was a rental bike scheme that used to exist in Exeter that doesn't exist anymore. When I travel home, I travel by train, but none of this is really the main issue here. Okay, as I say,
let Kim make her point. There you go, the train powered by fossil fuels. John,
yes,
Eddie.
Yes, it will. Eddie, I'm sorry, young man. I'm just wanting you young people, bless you, have your life, but don't talk tripe. And if you're going to go and you're going to not like something, that's entirely up to you. I don't like a lot of things. But before you demonstrate, disrupt everybody, get your facts right. You travel by train, which is part oil.
Eddie.
Come on, can you please answer me?
Eddie.
Answer me.
The fact I am trying to answer. I am trying to answer you, Kim, and it is wonderful to meet you, believe it or not. But look, the fact of the matter is, you've asked me about facts. The fact is that if we carry on burning fossil fuels, billions of people will be displaced from where they live. Hundreds of millions of people could lose their lives.
In what time frame, Eddie? In what time frame are hundreds of millions of people going to lose their lives?
Already, you can't do without oil. You get the train. You have to use oil, so you benefit from getting on a train that uses oil, yet you're against oil. If you didn't have the train, you'd have a hell of a walk, my love.
Eddie.
I'm having difficulty getting a word in at the moment.
No, exactly. Eddie, I'm going to give you more airtime. Eddie, I do want to hear from you. I mean, listen, I've got no doubt that you do your bit for the environment. You represent Just Stop Oil, fair enough. But what about some of your young mates who go to music festivals and leave an amazing amount of litter behind when they leave, often leaving the tent, which is plastic waste, goes straight into landfill? What about all the young people that go out and have takeaways and they have coffee in one of those mugs that you can't recycle? That's the problem with young people, isn't it?
Look, you've invited me on this show to talk about, my perspective as a spokesperson for Just Stop Oil, right? Okay. And so the truth is, as I've tried to say, if we carry on licensing new fossil fuel projects in 2023, hundreds of millions of people could lose their lives. Okay. And this is not about individuals. This is not about what individuals do. As I tried to say at the beginning, yes, we all need to do our part. But if that's all that we do, and if we don't hold the government to account, if we don't hold the fossil fuel companies to account, the banks, the media, all of these, systemic forces which are creating the crisis in the first place.
Eddie, I hear you, but you're not responding to my point about music festivals and young people who live on takeaways.
And let's be true.
Hold fire, Kim. I'll come back to you, but I do want to hear from Eddie. Eddie, you're absolutely right. You've been booked on the show to share your view, and I really want to hear it.
All right.
Yeah, and my view is that people need to be holding the government to account. Otherwise, hundreds of millions of people will lose their lives.
Why can't you answer my question, Eddie? Eddie, listen, I want to know why young people go to festivals and make a mess, why they live on takeaways, why they buy a new mobile phone every 2 years, why they turn up the heating, central heating that mum and dad pay for when they're at home, and why this latest poll shows that they do much less recycling than their older counterparts. Well, I'm sick of hearing old people, Eddie, blamed for everything. In fact, it's young people that are wrecking the environment. The statistics prove it.
Well, you're assuming a lot of things about what I believe, which just aren't true.
I can't know what you believe until you answer the question.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Right. No, you're not trying. We've asked you, we've sat still, you've not said a word. Why are you on a train when you use the oil? No oil, no whole train you go. And it's right, they go to these festivals, young folk, and they're lovely festivals.
That's a good place.
But you see the mess you leave behind. So you're telling me you really are helping the environment, are you? And they're all your age group doing it.
Just to be clear, what Just Stop Oil is demanding is an end to all new fossil fuel licenses and consents in the UK. We're not asking for an end to oil overnight, as you suggested at the beginning, right? Okay, and we've got the International Energy Agency, which is the world's leading authority on energy policy. They said 2 years ago that we cannot have any new investment in new fossil fuels globally, and our government wants 100 new licenses.
Drive around in their cars, yes.
OK, now listen, Eddie, I take your point. I understand your concerns about oil and fossil fuels. So, look, I'm glad you've made it. Eddie, before you go, listen, you're a fan of Kim Woodburn. She was the star of How Clean Is Your House? She is the queen of clean. And I think you guys get on. I think there's a chemistry, but I think it's all going to go wrong when Kim, take a look at this footage. Kim, tell me what you think of the mess that Eddie made at the World Snooker Championships. How long would it have taken to clean up all that dust from a luxury, beautiful snooker table?
You'd have to vacuum first, which would take forever.
You need a
It would be
sponge.
all over the ceiling. It would be all over the ceiling. It would rise. It would be on people's shoes, on their clothes, in their hair. Because they've got to go home and wash. He's caused chaos and hours of cleaning. And he's telling you he's trying to save the environment. And if anybody's got bad lungs, even bronchitis, and my husband has bronchitis, if they breathe that in, they could be in trouble. So how the hell have you helped out?
Eddie, briefly, you get the last word.
Well, I think people need to go to juststopoil.org and sign up for action because, as I've tried to make clear, hundreds of millions of people are going to lose their lives if we don't get this right.
OK.
If we don't get this right, if the government continues to license new fossil fuel projects, you know, we're going to look back on interviews like this and people will say, what on earth were they talking about? What on earth was Mark Durden talking about? What on earth was Kim talking about?
All right. Well, I think they will be watching this interview back for a bit of a chuckle, but it's been a great debate as well. This show is the home of diverse opinion. We've had it writ large in the last few minutes. My thanks to Eddie Whittingham, who is a Just Stop Oil spokesperson and protester, and the legendary television personality Kim Woodburn.